You need to separate the learning curve and then the actual testing cycle. I like to call it the testing cycle, because first you need to consume the data, you need to have an understanding, and after that you need to focusing on the questions. But because of the nature of the exam that you have to do situational questions, the more time you really spend on the learning material, that is what really slowing you down, because you're not going to get questions like that, because the idea is that you take everything you learn and you are able to use it. Separate these two things, that will definitely help you.
Hi, I'm Anna Anderson, CEO and founder of the Women in Project Management Network. I'm a project manager by profession, a career coach, a PMP trainer, and a LinkedIn learning instructor. But more importantly, I'm someone who's been in your shoes. Not too long ago, I was filled with doubt, stepping out of my comfort zone and navigating rejection after rejection. It wasn't an easy journey, but through perseverance, hard work, and lessons learned, I finally found my yes. That moment changed everything, not just for me, but for the many people I've since had the privilege to help. I've seen how lives transform when you have the right tools, when you have the right support and encouragement to pursue those six-figure project management roles. On the Project Management Connect Show, here I share inspiring stories from project managers who've gone through aspiring to hired. I also bring in industry experts, recruiters, and hiring managers to show us how it's done. Together, we'll explore practical strategies and actionable tips to help you on your journey. So whether you're just starting out, transitioning into project management, or looking to elevate your project management career, this podcast is for you. If project management feels like your calling, or if you're just exploring, it's time to dive in. So let's get started, fellow project manager. Your journey begins here. All right, today we have with us Gabor. Gabor is an amazing PMP coach. I met Gabor through networking over on LinkedIn. And so we're here today, and he's going to share with us a couple of thoughts or information he has all about project management, professional examination, and anything PMP. So welcome to the show, Gabor.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm very excited for this conversation today.
Yeah. So do you want to, first of all, just tell the listeners, what's your name and what do you do?
Okay. So my name is Gabor Strand. I'm a 9-to-5 program manager, managing a few projects together with a few project managers, altogether more than 15 years in this field, mainly in oil and gas and the telecom industry. So a little bit of different areas of the spectrum of project management. And I'm also PMP certified, but that wasn't really, let's say, an easy journey for me. It took me 3 years, 2 failures to pass the exam. And then in the end, it was leading to a way that I find a new ways of preparing for this exam, which is slightly different than what most people will say, which is like an 8 weeks preparation cycle. And in the past 2 years, I'm on a mission to have like 10,000 people pass the PMP this way. So far, 703. So still
amazing. No, that's amazing. And that's a good goal. Within 2 years, 703, 10,000 is coming very, very, very soon. So that's awesome. And I love that you also share that you learned from your failures, but you use that failure to help you, learn from that and help other people as well. So again, what inspired you to become a PMP though?
I think I wanted to have the recognition. I think that time at the company, so I had like 8-9 years when I tried first time. There wasn't really, let's say, pressure. Don't want to leave the company, so don't want to explore, let's say, how can I utilize it for negotiating next set of salary and stuff like that. But I felt like that, especially that time, most of us are still accidental project managers. You're demonstrating a certain amount of skills, which is fitting in for the realms of project management. And after a few trainings, you're looking for what are the professional ways where you can demonstrate your commitment to the career path. And that's how I like to phrase the PMP is what the biggest benefit is your demonstration to the career path, that you see yourself as a competent person in this area. Mm-hmm. So that's how I end up, working on the PMP, which, it had certain lessons learned along the way.
Oh, that's awesome.
So what has been one of the most rewarding parts of helping others? I know you said your goal is 10,000. Right now you're at 703 within 2 years. That's awesome. What's your reward? What's your motivation towards that?
So the motivation, one hand, is that the industry of preparing for the PMP is very much the same in the past 20, 30 years. You get the book, you get the course, you get the training, and then you work hard on it. That's what everybody says. You invest, I don't know, 4 to 6 months, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, 3 hours, 4 hours, and miraculously you are ready and you pass, and we are all very happy about it. But that's exactly the same way how we did it, considering the previous versions of the best practices. But I do believe that there's another way of doing it. There should be a different way because number one, 4 to 6 months on an exam preparation, I mean, this is not a weight loss program, it's just an examination. It's not like you need to do a years of learning curve because the profession is experience driven. The more experience you have, technically, the smarter you are in this field, in most cases. But at the end of the day so I do felt like that we need to approach it slightly differently. And that comes from my lessons learned, each time, I sat on a boot camp, had a book, had a course, had a simulator. And I felt like that, after the second failure, if I continue doing exactly the same, or let's get another material, is it going to tell me anything new? And I realized that the answer will be no. So that's where I started to focus on from a different perspective, which gave me so much clarity. So that's one part of the motivation. And the second part is that also when you hear people, oh, I passed in 8 weeks, or even, and this is applicable for those, who I work with on my, let's say, my paid programs, on the free programs as well, because even a person who joins the free study group and they come back 8 weeks later and said, I was here listening to others, how they're doing it. Now I'm here, I'm telling others how I did it. And it was exactly the same how I mentioned. I mean, that's also is very much fulfilling because, I'm reaching the objective. And because I think the human psychology works that if I say something that is hard, no matter what, I make it hard for myself. And the same thing, if, somebody will tell me or wanted to prepare for the PMP and I'm asking my mentor or my colleague, oh, that will be hard, it will take 6 months. I mean, I make it 6 months, even though, deliberately I make it 6 months and I make it hard for myself. Whereas it's more like the clarity, which is really down there. So I would say that has two parts. I really believe that there's a different way of doing it. And then also the reward of others are also spreading the word. And then the more people will actually be considering it at least differently, I think that's already an objective reached instead of the 4 to 6 months.
Oh, okay. So why do you believe the PMP certification is important for project managers today?
So PMP is beneficial. It is deliberately the most valued on the job market in comparing with all the other certifications. So I would say that in general, everyone should go through some type of learning curve, but the nature of the job of being experienced, you need to have experience. Still 2025, 80% of the PMs are accidental PMs. Whereas the PMP will give them the credibility to say that, okay, I'm committed to this career path. I committed to learn and grow even more. Whereas for those who don't have experience, they go CAPM and then after they go PMP.
No, you're right. It gives you that credibility. And even the PMI website says that. It will give you that credibility. A lot of people who've done it, myself included, I'll never forget when I first got my CAPM a couple of years ago. And even just with that, I started getting that credibility before I went for my PMP. So any kind of certification shows that commitment to the field that you're in and stuff. But there's also a couple of misconceptions about the project management professional certifications. What are some of those that you've heard from your community or people who tried to reach out to you about it?
I think there are a crowd of people who really argue about which certificate holds higher quality over the other one. So there is some people make it like a competition. And I think we shouldn't view it this way, but I think you need to have more clarity. And I think what is missing here is that really the clarity for project managers. And the main reason for that, because this profession, you have these people who are driving things to get things done. So you are in the driving seat, you have an idea, you go with your plan, which makes you, I'm not saying you're not listening to others, but you certainly have an idea how to get it done. And unless you're hitting a wall, you're not even asking for help or even clarity. Whereas some people obviously will go, but that goes with a different personality style. Now, how does this relate to, for example, the certifications, as you mentioned? For example, mention Google certificate. It is an amazing certificate, but unless you're working for Google, unless you haven't got a clue about project management, it hasn't got a much of a good value in the end. And I think that's something they never tell anyone. They gladly talk about also the best practices, what PMI defines. And the second part of the time, they talk about how they're doing projects. So in the end of the day, if you're not part of Google, I mean, it's a nice to have, but that almost feels like that in if I'm searching on YouTube about project management 101, find something. So, and then this is like an entire curriculum for 4 months, 6 months, you're going to get a badge after it. But I think what people sometimes forget is that on a long term, you need to have those credentials which are valuable, but not just holding that, the value as I believe is a value, but how the job market or the companies are seeing it. And that's where I would say that PMI is absolutely taking the lead. And even though we like it or not, there are other certifications which are popular in some countries or some regions of the world, but in a global scheme of things, technically PMI is so much ahead of anyone. And I think no one really will come anywhere close, if you're asking me. So credibility and the value which really represents in terms of also not just some say that in the job market, but if I'm a company, if I'm an employer, I mean, I know what to expect if I'm going to get a hire a CAPM or if I'm going to get a PMP, because that person, we're going to speak the same language. That person will have an understanding, especially for CAPM, and then understanding the difference between, agile, waterfall. What's the difference between the roles now, between the BA and the project manager? Why is differ? And on PMP front of things, you're going to be challenged through scenario, situational questions, which might be applicable to your current job, yes or no. But at least you're going to see that, which is very, very important in the long term for those lessons learned and solving future issues, for example. That as you might hear something, you are able to distinguish like a best practice view versus the real life. But that can also lead to innovation. That can also lead to process improvements, to challenging the status quo. Okay, we're not doing exactly everything as per the best practice. Is it because it doesn't make sense, or we are maybe lazy, or we don't want to do it this way? But those questions, those seeds were coming into your mind, and then you can run with it afterwards. And I think the proactive approach of a project manager is just absolutely will benefit the organization and the individual itself.
Yeah. So what's your advice? Because I know the PMP examination is very, very long. It's the preparation. Sometimes some people take a long time to take it because it's, you have to put in at least 2 to 3 hours. At least that's what I tell my clients. Take about 2 to 3 hours to study for this exam daily if you have that goal. Because again, it's temporary. You want to be done. You want to get back your time. But some people, motivation, they don't have that motivation to keep studying. What are some of the things you think could help someone keep motivated when they're studying for their PMP examination?
That's a good one. Well, obviously, if you think about the end goal and what it will represent to you and what you plan to achieve with that, so that you can link it to that goal. But that, even though, we are also helping people pass the PMP, so as I, so which is amazing. But in the end of the day, most people are really stuck that even though we are project managers, we don't know how to define a study plan for us, which is equally rigid and equally flexible. Because I think, if everything goes as per your plan, your motivation is high. But if the universe and your stakeholders are giving you those challenges on a daily basis, and you're not able to do as much as you like to do, one day, second day, third day, you're deviating from the plan, which comes with a frustration. And then, and then you have the other commitment. So how am I going to, juggle all these 100 million different things at the same time? So in the end, the study plan, the study plan, that how can I find curve out time? How can I even experiment what might works for me, what might works with others?
Yeah.
Whereas people, many times they're just looking for a quick fix. So they're going into Reddit, they're going into LinkedIn. This worked for you, this worked for me. Fine. Bang, bang. I do this, I buy this, and then somehow it will be done. But it's a feedback loop of what shall I do? How shall I do it? Or I have a question, can I ask someone or someone knowledgeable? And again, that will also goes back sometimes that, I think I can figure this out. And, I'm also like same as others, but,
Yeah. No, so you're right. A study plan is important to keep you motivated. Your goal is important to keep you motivated because, again, it's a temporary situation. You're not gonna be doing this forever, but you holding on and holding on and holding on is not gonna help, especially if your goal at the end of the day is to take the examination. How much time do you recommend for your clients? How much time do you always recommend for them to study per day?
So I think you need to you need to consider, I would say, so on my recipe, you need to define the number of study days you can commit to. That will also kind of drive, the duration in the end. But obviously the idea that I might study just 3 days a week is not necessarily enough, or studying in big bursts, 3 to 4 to 5 hours. Because the challenge we have is that there's lots of content out there, lots of content. It takes time also to digesting in, and having the knowledge is one thing, and then doing the questions is a second thing, and how you connecting the dots together. And my key expertise is very much that, because 99% of the people will tell you that, what are the definitions, what you need to learn, or talk about the 35 hours, which is very much the same, because technically everyone talks about the same, no matter if you get a prep book or get a course, get like a boot camp, they are using the same source material, which is the PMP book guide 7, process practice guide, agile practice guide. So I would say that there is no necessarily one size fits all. Each and every person learns differently. But you need to look for, I would say, a good 4 to 5 days for sure, or somewhere around good 2 hours. So 2 hours is definitely required. Can you do more? Obviously you can, but until you not have a fixed exam date, everything is just a target. Deadlines can be pushed and stuff like that. But in the end, many people tend to say, okay, I need to have a full commitment, 7 out of 7, 3 hours, 4 hours, 2 weeks. In 2 weeks' time, they will be completely burned out. So what my advice to people, you rather study that much as soon as you are 2 weeks away from the exam, because if you are 2 weeks away, you're going to be definitely providing more commitment, because without having a deadline, it is a little bit of a floating target. Okay, I make adjustments, it's going to be fine, but that will lead into a burnout very, very quickly. And that's when, okay, I'm spending 4 weeks here, then I'm taking a pause for a week, maybe I go even for a vacation, then coming back, then work or other challenges coming along. I need to find the rhythm again, but I'm not able to study as much. So that's why it's, in a blink of an eye with this on and off approach, like 3 months, 4 months, or even more. And with the problem is that you're never feeling ready. You never feel that, okay, I need to have that confidence, but what giving me the confidence is a completely different thing there.
Yeah. So if you were to give someone a tip on how to pass the exam, because I know the exam changed in 2021. Now it's mostly a lot of situational questions, like what would the project manager do next? What would the project manager do first? So, some people are like, oh, it's not exactly like how it is in the book. A lot of situational questions. So what would be that one tip you would give to someone studying for the examination?
Well, you need to separate the learning curve and then the actual testing cycle. I like to call it the testing cycle, because first you need to consume the data, you need to have an understanding, and after that you need to focusing on the questions. But because of the nature of the exam that you have to do situational questions, the more time you really spend on the learning material, that is what really slowing you down, because you're not going to get questions like that, because the idea is that you take everything you learn and you are able to use it. Separate these two things. That will definitely help you. For example, you're doing the learning, you don't do any questions, because that's again will slow you down. And why is that? Because PMI will never ask you those. And how do I know? Because the step 0 is that you read the exam content outline. That material is available for everyone. And as you said, in terms of situational questions or how the questions are distributed, that half of it agile, Scrum hybrid, half of it waterfall. I mean, people still not believing that, but it's written down on the PMI website, because people more believe a guy who put something into Reddit yesterday. All of my questions agile, all of my questions hybrid. My response to that, my friend, congratulations, but you not remember. And I not blame you, because nobody will get a printout of any of the questions. So instead, I think I take your feedback, amazing, but let's go what PMI tell every person around the world. All the 400,000 people who tried last year, all of them will know what to expect, but maybe you're not believing it, you're not paying attention to reading it through, because that's exactly what you're going to get. So, going through, 35 hours of training, that's huge amount, but through that outline, we know exactly that PMI more pressing on questions where, agile, waterfall, colliding, conjunction, that how you do it here, how you do it there. And, communication, stakeholders, conflict management, leadership are the key themes out there. And again, that's not my invention. It's all on the PMI website, that you just need to pay attention to make sure you're focusing on that, because the approach of I go chapter by chapter and I'm doing questions, I think you need to take it with a pinch of salt, because let's say you go to scope and you go like, there's 20 questions and you score 8 out of 20. You go like, that's not good. Let's redo it again. Okay, you redo it again, you've been through again, and then you score 12 out of 20. Ooh, still not 80%. Okay, let's do it one more time. Now, finally, you do like 15 out of 20, so at least 75%. Then you move into the next one, but you are super exhausted and you spend 3 weeks on something which most cases is almost not even tested. And I think that's where you kind of go into this slow down approach. And also when people are saying, oh, I would like to learn anything and everything, good approach, my friend, but please realize that this will be a very long time for you, and you are on the verge to become a PMP professor.
Yeah.
If you wanted to become a PMP professor, fine, but what the professor is doing, talk about PMP for 5 hours every day for other people. I mean, but if you wanted to pass, you certainly need to take it with a pinch of salt, because if everybody would have been know anything and everything after a 5 days boot camp, obviously nobody will talk about the PMP, how difficult that is.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's great advice for anyone who's trying to take the project management professional certification. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for coming in. But do you have any upcoming events for you and your community?
Yes, so I'm very active on LinkedIn. So if everyone is interested about my upcoming events, which I'm hosting study groups / workshops as well. Workshops, what's the difference between the two? So study group is more like when we're gathering together, we're doing exercise together, we're doing some learning together, but it's more general in the sense where when I host a workshop, it's a very specific topic. So for example, last week we had a agile mindset workshop where we not just focused on the level of theory which is out there, but also discussing it through the questions. So you're going to automatically see that what is it all about. And that is, I would say, a very focused approach. So make the long story short, people can get in touch with me through LinkedIn. All of my sessions running on LinkedIn, or at least that's the gateway to anything happening there. So yeah, anyone can reach out to me and get connected and learn more about the upcoming events.
Yeah, so and I'll take your LinkedIn link and put it on the show notes so that people can connect with you directly, follow you, so they can see any upcoming events that you have. Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been an amazing conversation. I'm hoping that those of you who are listening, you can take Gabor's advice and it can help you. If you're studying for your project management professional certification, you can join his sessions over on LinkedIn. He has a couple of workshops coming up, or you can even join classes that he's offering for the PMP certification. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity.
Of course, we will talk soon.